6 months in, El Salvador's Bitcoin gamble is crumbling. The price of Bitcoin is down. El Salvador is launching its Bitcoin bond, saying that it's all or nothing, that the project must succeed. Meanwhile, no one wants to live in a Bitcoin city near a volcano, and many others are wondering if the dictator with the backwards hat has gone too far.
The
Dan Eve,
dictator, you mean the CEO of El Salvador?
whatever, when you claim power by in a violent ceremony by making them forced to vote for you, you're kind of a dictator. Sorry to get too much into the terms. Dan Eve, your thoughts on El Salvador and their suddenly all or nothing Bitcoin bonds?
Well, I personally think it sounds quite cool to live next to a volcano, because you might have a bit more like warning of an eruption than like they had in the Pompeii days, and that. So but obviously, what you would do is centralize a load of Bitcoiners in that particular town, which probably makes it a bit of a target, right? If you and imagine if you centralize people enough and it becomes that popular and everyone's like all Bitcoin and they're all holding their own private keys, and then it's like some other crazy not some other crazy dictator. Not, I wasn't saying like, but a crazy dictator in another part of the world is like, oh, okay, everyone's getting too dependent on Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. They could then go and like nuke the Bitcoin city and then wipe out loads of Bitcoin supply. And then that's got a whole other like host of problems. So yeah, fair enough. El Salvador had some some rollout issues using Chivo wallet, and they do seem like they're remedying that. Obviously, it hasn't helped that Bitcoin.
Do you guys actually understand the implications of Chivo wallet though, and the Chivo wallet system?
When you say the implications, as in it was kind of it seems like it was I wouldn't say a backhander, but like it was like
it's a lightning network where you don't hold your own keys.
Yeah.
If it's not your keys, it's not your Bitcoin. I just want to be very clear. We have ATMs in El Salvador, but we've been down there since the beginning. We have very big concerns about the way that they're implementing it and the true fungibility of the El Salvadorian Bitcoins versus a standard Bitcoin. Additionally, the potential for them to have like a fractional reserve of Bitcoins. Like if it's only a paper Bitcoin and you don't hold the keys, how do you know that they don't have 500,000 Bitcoins on the books and only 100,000 Bitcoins in the reserve, like the United States does with gold? Anyways,
and this issue really came to light when El Salvador started to give out, I don't know, something like $1,000 each to each of their people, but then they only gave you
$30 each.
Yeah, it was in the Chivo wallet. It was the $30, and we don't know unless they cashed all of those out whether they actually gave that Bitcoin or, like Mike said, they could have fractionally reserved that Bitcoin. So that's a whole nother shoe waiting to drop. Dan, do you have more on El Salvador?
Yeah, well, that was definitely the biggest issue. That it's a Lightning wallet, but it's custodial. There are also, I think, issues with how it was the company that owned it, that it was kind of linked via family members, and so it seemed like it was a bit of a side deal. Rather than going for the best technology, it was going for something that kind of made everyone happy. But ultimately, I think they've mainly been stung from an outward perspective by the fact that Bitcoin has been taken from gone from like 69k down to 40. So everyone's kind of like going, oh well, Bitcoin's dropped and it's a terrible decision. And obviously people aren't used to the fluctuations, right? People slowly get into Bitcoin. It makes your heart stop when your assets suddenly drop 20%, even if you're like a fly by the seat of your pants kind of a roadside cafe or whatever that's taken a couple of $100 for the day, and it drops 20% or 15%. That's going to hit you hard until you start realizing that if you're holding for the long term and whatever, and you're being a bit more projection based on your stock and trying to forecast a bit better, it takes a while to get your head around. So yeah, I think ultimately there's going to be naysayers, but I think they're on the right track. And again, going back to this rule that if you hold for like 4+ years, then eventually you'll be back in the green.
Martin Wishmayer, El Salvador used to be all powerful and amazing and strong country. Then suddenly the price is down, and now the Bitcoin bond must succeed. What's going on in El Salvador?
Yeah, I think, as Dan said, it has to do with the current price. If the price would have been going up, like Plan B predicted, 100K or more, then everything would, if everybody would still be cheering. And now they're like, probably getting a lot of negative reviews, and I told you so, and this was bound to fail. So, on the Bitcoin bonds, that's just not for me. I want to hold Bitcoin. I don't want to hold a promise of Bitcoin or some fiat based returns. I honestly don't care about that. But maybe it's something for someone else. I do applaud them for trying. They didn't have their own currency, so why not adopt Bitcoin in that case? So it makes sense because the monetary policy behind Bitcoin is known. It's 21 million, and there will never be any more. With the dollar, which they had before that, or they still have, you don't know how many dollars there will be, like new dollars there will be like next month. So yeah, it did make sense, and I think it still does make sense. And I still think it's like kind of brave to do that. But I agree with Michael. He said we do have our reservations on how they implemented this. I think it was just like a quick way to implement it and get it
They
up
rushed
and
it
running.
very fast. And
Yeah.
in the end of the day, if it's not correct and people lose money, they're going to end up blaming us, not the El Salvador CEO.
You're right.
I still think they're trying to find out how many Bitcoin you could fit into a briefcase and sneak out of the country, but we'll see how that goes.
0, you shouldn't do that. Just send them on the interwebs.
I also agree with what Martine was saying that why would you buy these bonds when you could just buy Bitcoin? And even the article itself, it was like, why not just buy Bitcoin directly? Why have all this stress?
You're buying publicity. So what if you're buying a bond that's really not as valuable as Bitcoin is, but because of the artificial inflation and them arbitrarily creating additional Bitcoins that don't really exist, maybe the first few people will get in on the pump and dump before everyone realizes. I'm not saying it's a scam. I don't know this for sure. I'm just saying, like, I'm very cautious about El Salvador in general because they're not being fully transparent. And what they're doing is it's not fungible, and it doesn't really articulate to the true, like, decentralized kind of thing. Why do we need Bitcoin through our government?
It does expose a problem in their system, and that's probably why they created these layers like the Chivo wallet, where they can still maintain control and maybe not even give out all the money. And then now these strange bonds. It's that old thing. Everyone comes to Bitcoin. They're like, this is the perfect currency. I could attach something to this. I could make a Coinbase. I could make a bond. But is it just that the price is down and it's causing worries? Josh Shigala, your thoughts on El Salvador, where suddenly the bonds are all or nothing and the backwards hat has to make all his money back, or it's a huge problem?
And hey, yeah, Josh, welcome to the show. Sorry, I stepped away for a second when you joined, but it's really good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that the clocks had changed.
Well, the clocks have changed in America. So in the US, they went 1 hour ahead, but they are already
Congress
so
made
many
this
hours
permanent
behind.
now, so it'll probably be affecting you guys soon. Just wait for the bulletin to get out.
That's how powerful governments are. They can change the time, space-time continuum. I agree with the panel here. Like, the Bitcoin bonds are a strange concept, but I do like the experimentation. I like that the government has tried this. I think it's the thing. It's all about timing with this stuff, especially bonds, because bonds form really at the time where it's a bull market. So because depending on the maturity date, yeah, I mean, it depends also what they do with the underlying collateral, right? So if they go and put this stuff into DeFi or lend it out and get more Bitcoin back and actually build up the underlying reserve, your bond might mature worth a little bit more.
Or the opposite, if they're not transparent with it and they go throwing around money in the wrong places, you could lose your ass.
Yeah, Yeah, totally, totally. So you know, in one side that's the good side, the other side is that's the bad side. What Mike just stated there, and knowing humans, it's usually the bad side because they get greedy, they screw things up. So one thing that could save them though is if they really worked a little bit more transparently with multi-sig wallets, with DAOs, like build a government DAO where people vote on where allocation of funds are and treasuries and stuff. This would be really interesting. I think El Salvador's
they're not
really
going
put
that
its neck
direction
out
at all. They're
in
not
front of the
doing a
line. But
governance DAO at all.
what's that?
It's not going that way though at all. They're not planning to do like a governance DAO or something. They're literally just saying, trust the government. We'll hold your Bitcoins. You don't get your private keys. Use our ATMs and put your money in Bitcoin and trust us. And like, that's the complete opposite of what we're supposed to do.